Selama 75 tahun, PLN menghadapi tantangan luar biasa. Tetapi PLN menghadapi tantangan tersebut dengan menunjukkan karakternya. Kami berorientasi melindungi generasi masa depan, bertekad untuk terus berinovasi. Semangat PLN untuk menjadi lebih gesit, lebih lincah, semangat untuk memberi pelayanan terbaik kepada pelanggan di seluruh Indonesia.
Zaman now, gak perlu ke bank. Buka rekening .bri.co.id, daftarnya di situ, jangan ragu-ragu. Siapkanlah ID-mu, foto video kecemu, tanpa datang ke bank. Siapin setoran awalmu, buka akun Brimomu. BRI, Digital Saving.
Teras, aman. Dapur, aman. Ruang tamu, aman.
Nah, main-main mulu, mentang-mentang rumah baru. Udah sana mandiin anaknya.
Para patriot bangsa, bisa kok punya rumah. Kapan lagi bisa DP cuma 1%, bunga cuma 7% selama 5 tahun. Ajukan KPR BTN Patriot sekarang.
Ayo mandi.
Menjadi yang terbesar, ceritanya kerap kali tidak lengkap. Karena segala sesuatu yang besar jarang diceritakan ketika dia masih kecil. Di Telkomsel, kami selalu berusaha untuk ingat bahwa kami menjadi yang terbesar semata-mata hanya karena ratusan juta pelanggan setia yang menggunakan kami di hidup mereka. Tanpa semua kehidupan yang kini mengalir di nadi-nadi jaringan kami tidak lebih dari sebuah benda mati. Semua teknologi dan infrastruktur terluas, tercanggih, dan terkini yang kami bangun hanyalah hidup jika ada kehidupan mengalir di dalamnya. Terima kasih karena sudah berbagi kehidupan kalian melalui menara-menara kami. Kami akan selalu ingat bahwa besar kami adalah karena kalian yang bertumbuh besar bersama kami.
Selama 75 tahun, PLN menghadapi tantangan luar biasa. Tetapi PLN menghadapi tantangan tersebut dengan menunjukkan karakternya. Kami berorientasi melindungi generasi masa depan, bertekad untuk terus berinovasi. Semangat PLN untuk menjadi lebih gesit, lebih lincah, semangat untuk memberi pelayanan terbaik kepada pelanggan di seluruh Indonesia.
Zaman now, gak perlu ke bank. Buka rekening .bri.co.id, daftarnya di situ, jangan ragu-ragu. Siapkanlah ID-mu, foto video kecemu, tanpa datang ke bank. Siapin setoran awalmu, buka akun Brimomu. BRI, Digital Saving.
Teras, aman. Dapur, aman. Ruang tamu, aman.
Main-main mulu, mentang-mentang rumah baru. Udah sana mandiin anaknya.
Para patriot bangsa, bisa kok punya rumah. Kapan lagi bisa DP cuma 1%, bunga cuma 7% selama 5 tahun. Ajukan KPR BTN Patriot sekarang.
Ayo mandi.
Siap.
Untuk Anda, Pertamina terus meningkatkan energi untuk mengolah sumber energi demi membangun kehidupan di seluruh pelosok negeri. Menyebarkan semangat untuk masa depan, menumbuhkan harapan, mengokohkan langkah untuk terus bergerak ke depan. Mendorong kemajuan Indonesia dari setiap sudut negeri, agar kita terus melompat lebih tinggi, melampaui cita-cita dan menembus batas. Mari terus beraksi dengan penuh energi untuk Indonesia yang lebih baik.
Sukses itu sederhana. Kuncinya jangan gagal. Setiap orang punya jatahnya masing-masing. Premium 10 liter, Mas. Jika hasil tak sesuai harapan,
bahan bakar tidak sesuai,
tetap konsisten.
oktan terlalu rendah, oktan terlalu rendah.
Ayo, load aja, Mbak.
Please deh.
Kalau mau mobil hebat, pilih BBM sehat yang oktannya tepat. Kayak saya.
Mas, gas. Yang hijau 3 kilo.
Ini kan jatah saya, Bu.
Loh. Yang 3 kilo buat abangnya aja, Bu. Untuk ibu lebih pantas pakai bread gas. Gaya hidup ala sosialita, tapi di dapur masih gas 3 kilo aja. Malu malu, gas 3 kilo itu jatahnya orang kurang mampu. Ayo pakai yang lebih pas, lebih pantas. Pakai bread gas, pilihan cerdas. Bread gas.
Ini Edgar nih, si tukang belanja online. Dia sedang memburu jaket. Saldo elektroniknya kurang. Kelamaan top up jadi sold out.
Ribet amat belanja online. Debitin aja pakai Mandiri.
Hah? Debit Mandiri bisa buat belanja online?
Pilih bayar pakai debit, masukkan nomor kartu, masa berlaku, CVV di belakang kartu, dan kode OTP yang lo terima.
Lancar nih.
Kan didebitin pakai Mandiri. Saatnya debitin belanja online.
Saatnya mandiri.
Menjadi yang terbesar, ceritanya kerap kali tidak lengkap.
Berapa menit lagi kita benar-benar terjun bebas. Selamat sore dan selamat bergabung dalam acara Indonesia Digital Conference. Sore ini kita sudah memasuki sesi terakhir dan di hari terakhir pula dalam rangkaian pelaksanaan Indonesia Digital Conference. Di mana acara ini sudah berlangsung sejak kemarin 15 Desember 2020 dan dibagi menjadi 3 sesi dalam tiap harinya dengan pembahasan topik yang juga menarik dan semakin menarik tentunya di sesi ketiga hari ini. Dan acara ini diselenggarakan oleh Asosiasi Media Siber Indonesia dan bekerja sama dengan Telkomsel bergerak maju bersama Indonesia Maju, PT Perusahaan Listrik Negara PLN Persero, PT Bank Negara Indonesia BNI Persero Tbk, PT Bank Rakyat Indonesia BRI Persero Tbk. Dan pada kesempatan yang berbahagia ini, saya, Cakri Milar, akan ditemani oleh Bapak Wahyu Diatmika selaku pemimpin redaksi majalah Tempo. Selamat sore, Pak Wahyu.
Selamat sore,
apa kabar?
Cakri, baik.
Sehat ya pastinya.
Sehat,
semangat dengan narsum-narsum.
Semangat.
Hebat narsum-narsum keren kita hari ini
wonderful.
ya. Oke, wonderful panelis. Oke, dan pemirsa dan juga para partisipan, seiring dengan perkembangan zaman dan teknologi dewasa ini yang tengah gencar akan digitalisasi, digitalisasi ini adalah masa yang di mana teknologi digital semakin marak digunakan oleh berbagai kalangan. Dampaknya, keberadaan media massa, terutama media cetak, mulai dipandang sebelah mata nampaknya oleh masyarakat luas. Nah, bagaimana media menyikapi hal tersebut? Langsung saja kita akan simak diskusi kita sore hari ini dengan tema digitalisasi media. Ya, dan diskusi panel sore ini kita akan mengikutinya dalam sesi dengan tema itu tadi, digitalisasi media. Namun sebelumnya, Mas Wahyu, saya akan memberikan juga kesempatan untuk menginformasikan kepada para partisipan yang mungkin sudah mulai bergabung saat ini untuk memberikan pertanyaan kepada para panelis kita. Sore hari ini ada 4 orang panelis dengan melalui fitur Q&A yang sudah ada di Zoom para partisipan masing-masing. Dan juga dikarenakan narsum kita istimewa kali ini, the wonderful panelist, very special panelist hari ini, mungkin para partisipan bisa menggunakan fitur interpreter juga untuk bisa langsung mendengarkan para panelis yang memberikan paparan mereka hari ini. Dan langsung saja saya persilahkan waktu dan tempat untuk moderator kita sore ini. Mas Wahyu, silakan.
Terima kasih, Cakri.
Ya.
Selamat sore para partisipan Indonesia Digital Conference pada hari ini. I'm going to switch to English now because all of our panelists will deliver their presentation in English.
Yeah.
As Chakri mentioned earlier, those of you who cannot quite grasp the language can use the translation feature on Zoom. It's on your screen. You just click on it, and our translator will be ready with a simultaneous translation just as we speak. Today is a very special session, not only because this is the last one, the last of the 6 sessions throughout the conference, but it's also because it's the only international panel. We are lucky today. We have distinguished speakers lining up for us to share their insights, their experience about this topic. We have Mr. Grant Sherlock, Managing Editor of Digital for ABC News Australia. How are you, Grant? Grant is speaking to us from Brisbane, from the sunny Brisbane in Australia. And then we have Miss Chia Ting Ting, the Chief Commercial Officer for Malaysia Kini in Kuala Lumpur. How are you, Ting? Good to have you.
Doing well, thank you. Yes.
We have Pak Steve Christian, CEO of KLY Network. Apa kabar, Pak Steve?
Kabar baik, terima kasih.
Pak Steve will represent Indonesia
Hello,
in
everyone.
this international panel.
Oh, Pak Steve, okay.
And then as the final speaker, last but not least, we have Professor Ross Settles from Hong Kong University. He's a professor of media innovation and entrepreneurship for the media and journalism at Hong Kong University, joining us from Hong Kong. Thank you, Ross, for joining us.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening,
Okay,
Mr. Ross.
so as Chakri mentioned earlier, today we're going to speak about digital innovation during pandemic. As you know, the pandemic impact media landscape quite heavily. There was this research just released by Oxford University and Reuters Institute early November. The survey showed that 21% of all the respondents believe their revenue will be impacted at least 30% this year. So the decline in revenue and all of other challenges during this year really proved to be a big obstacle for the media to innovate and create new opportunities in this pandemic year. But today we're going to talk about the bright side. There's always a silver lining. There's always an opportunity in crisis. and we hope these four distinguished speakers will share some insights on what kind of innovation they have started and launched in their media company, and Professor Ross will then give an overview of the opportunities lying ahead for media executive and media management next year. So we're going to start with Grant. He already has a presentation ready. The next 15 minutes is yours. Take it away, Grant.
Thank you. Thanks very much. It's a genuine pleasure to be joining you this afternoon. I hope the previous sessions of the conference have gone well. I'm talking to you from Brisbane, and I'll be sharing some of our experiences from the ABC during the coronavirus pandemic. Now, I'm hoping that my slides are visible there. Am I?
Okay. Yeah, here you go.
Here we go, coming up now. So thanks very much for that. Okay, so essentially what I'll be talking about today is how a time of crisis, how the pandemic really brought an opportunity for the ABC to strengthen our connection with the audiences that we had. If you move to the next slide for me, please. So this is about how we have attempted to initiate what I think is a genuine conversation with audiences. And I'll be talking about how COVID-19 reshaped the dynamic between us as a news provider and the readers that we had, and how we responded to that. So the new systems that we introduced for listening to what audiences want, how we have brought in a more transparent commissioning process, and how we've made the transition from news provider, a pretty straight kind of traditional news provider, to broadening to providing news and information, with the critical part being the and information part. As a national broadcaster, the role that we've played in helping people through a pretty uncertain time, a very uncertain time, and in accessing information that they needed. Okay, so if we move to the next slide, for me, a bit of background on the ABC so that we can start. So we are Australia's national broadcaster. We've existed for 9 decades, and our current kind of main outlets are we operate a 24-hour TV news channel, dozens of radio stations around the country, and the part of the organisation that I work for, it's the country's biggest news website. Each month, about 50% of Australians visit our news website. Now, Australia's population is nothing like Indonesia's, so that's about 12 to 13 million people a month, but about 50% of the Australian population come to us every month. Okay, so that's a bit of background about the ABC. If we move to the next slide. Thank you. So what we're going to look at is how we have changed the way we decide what makes news and the influence that coronavirus had on that process. So normally in a talk about innovation driven by a specific event or digital innovation on its own, I'd probably talk to you about, changes in high-end visual storytelling, or advances in data journalism and the way we've introduced that into our storytelling, or the way we go about running investigations. Mostly that's been the discussion that I would have had in recent years. But this year, the change that coronavirus really brought for us was in the way that we connect with Australians and how we involve them in the process of reporting the news and delivering value back to them. And for us, that's been a critical part of this year, not only because it's been a time when, as a national broadcaster, we've seen a responsibility to provide that kind of information, but also as a means of survival for us, a reason for people to consume what we were offering. In Australia, as in a lot of places, but Australia has been one of the kind of most affected countries. In the Reuters report that you talk about regularly, we're seeing Australia kind of topping the league when it comes to news avoidance. More and more Australians were turning their backs on news media, particularly traditional news media. And we saw far more light news consumers than heavy news consumers. And that was a trend that had been going for a number of years. This year, as I'm sure has been seen in a lot of countries, that trend was totally reversed. Many more Australians sought out news this year, largely because of the direct impact on their lives. Were schools going to be open? Were they allowed to move across state borders? Would they be working from the office or working from home? That kind of direct impact on their lives. If you move to the next slide for me. Thank you. So what that had changed for us is over a period of time, being such a household name, we really had a luxury of having well-known personalities and big name programs. And essentially what that had allowed is a pretty one-way conversation where journalists and editors like me largely shaped the news agenda of every day. And commissioning decisions were really most often based on experience, gut, and the contacts that people had built up over time. Now, there's not for a second am I saying there's anything wrong with that. Of course, the craft of journalism involves experience and knowledge and those contacts and ability to dig up information from places that maybe don't want to release it. We had operated like that for a long time, and we'd been quite successful with that model. Next slide, please. But the uncertainty that was driven by COVID really fueled a desperation for information. Certainly the case in Australia, I would expect elsewhere. And as that anxiety linked to COVID grew, people's hunger for that information meant that many were often agnostic about their news provider. So many turned to Google search or similar to find a source for the information they needed. And that presented a real risk for us of losing audience to other destinations. And at the same time, it presented an opportunity for us to provide value to Australians who were going to Google to find information and may not ever have come to the ABC. We had run previous audience engagement activities where we had invited the audience to help us with case studies or with information about a specific topic, but they'd largely been very one-off projects or lighter topics. They'd been seen as kind of peripheral activities. Next slide, please. Now, we ended 2019 and we started 2020 with what at the time we thought was going to be the biggest news event of the year, and that was the Australian bushfires. It was a global news event. It certainly was a hugely significant event in Australia. It prompted probably the most passionate debate about climate change that we've had to this point. And what we saw during the Australian bushfires was that Australians turned to search in a bigger number than ever before, literally to find out the latest, using terms like fires near me or bushfires latest. Now, we focused on that a lot during the bushfires, and we focused a lot of resource in that area. And essentially what we were doing is we were listening to what people wanted. And we spent a lot of time listening and acting on what people were asking us. Now, by focusing on that in December 2019 and January this year, we were actually unwittingly preparing ourselves for what was to come. We were putting in processes that we would develop further during coronavirus that would prove very valuable to us. Next slide, please. So what we saw is that we simply started asking direct questions of the audience. We simply asked them, what do you want to know about coronavirus? Please tell us, and we will respond to that. We started receiving responses from them, and we started sifting through them. And where we could see trends and themes, we gave priority to those trends and themes, those recurring topics in our editorial commissioning discussions. So we inserted audience members into our editorial discussions in our morning meetings, in our afternoon meetings, our lineup discussions. We put the voice of the audience as a real priority in that, which, to be honest, was a change and was a bit of a disruptor in doing that. But what it meant was we started to directly answer the topics that audience members had asked, and we were prioritizing those subjects. So our eventual lineups and the stories we chose to publish were actually not the same as they would have been beforehand. So our content started to see a real shift. And it meant that we started to provide much more of a service to the audience. Next slide, please. So COVID quickly dwarfed the bushfires as the year's biggest news event. That's obvious, and that's happened to us all. As we responded with our coronavirus coverage, we invested more time to listening across a range of areas where we used that information and we combined it. So we listened to people on search and we considered them to be potential new audience. We listened to the questions that were coming in directly from our existing audience, and we compared and cross-referenced the two. And we made comparisons and tried to decide whether there were similarities between the two. And we also looked at the conversations that were going on in our live blogs, where our journalists were providing minute-by-minute updates on information. And those live blogs provided a conversation that we were able to tap into people's emotions. And that began a genuine two-way conversation that was really stronger than any conversation we'd had with the audience before. Next slide, please. This is as simple as it looked. It was very basic, done on a rush, a simple question form that went into every one of our coronavirus stories. If I was to do this again, I would aim for a much more sophisticated look. We launched it within days, and it's simply asking for people's questions, and we get their contact information so that we can involve them in the process as we go and keep them informed. So that simple embed went in every coronavirus story we published. Next slide, please. And the questions started to roll in immediately. So things like, is it safe to swim in public swimming pools? What will happen to me if I have an elective surgery planned? What's the situation in Europe? Are the variants there more contagious than the ones in Australia? What happens in the prison system? How will we limit outbreaks there? Can the virus be spread by mosquitoes? Why can airline staff have different restrictions on them compared to other members of the public? These are the kind of questions that we started to get in, and you'll see they're across a variety of topics. Every one of these questions was read. They were all categorized, and we started to sift through them to see the themes that were coming through. Next slide, please. So far, we've received 135,000 questions. Now, that is by far and away more than any other audience engagement project we've ever run. If I'd have known we were going to receive 135,000 questions, I may have thought through initiating the project in the first place, because we committed to reading every single one. And we committed to doing our best to act on them. Now, we haven't answered every question, obviously, but what we've tried to do is chunk them into the themes that will be most useful to our readers. So we looked for emerging themes and we communicated those to all editorial teams so they could think about ways that they could respond to them. And we've also involved many questioners in the process of creating stories, which has meant that more kind of real Australians, members of the public, have been involved in the story creation process. You'll see they've been across a range of categories. Health was the biggest category where we've received the questions, no surprise there. Travel and immigration certainly been another huge area, and science, the creation of vaccines, the whole process around a mass vaccination program, things like that have definitely been a huge part of the questions that have come in. Next slide, please.
You have 3 more minutes, Grant?
Sorry?
You have 3 more minutes.
I'm on track, all good. So we have published many stories like this around self-isolation and what that means. What are the coronavirus symptoms? Essentially, we've published the stories and the subjects that people have told us they want to see. Now, take symptoms, for example. We received that question over and over and over and over in the first 6 months of the coronavirus pandemic. In traditional thinking for us, we felt like we had answered that question many times over, and probably we would have stopped answering it, but the public kept asking it. And so we felt that that just was a message that they still wanted new detail, or they hadn't kind of got the full grasp of it before. So we kept returning to that. Next slide, please. And we've kept them updated throughout. We've done regular stories that bring together a bunch of questions that we've answered. We've even put a face out there where the part of the team that reading the questions and categorizing them, they've done regular updates on the trends in the questions that we've been seeing. So we've tried to close the loop by making sure people know that we're serious about following up on these questions. Next slide, please. Our blogs receive hundreds of questions every day, and our bloggers provide answers, useful links, and they bring the blog visitors together as a community of readers. They're routinely our most read content, and together they've generated 120 million page views. Now, what that tells me is that people are finding value in this process of exchanging questions and getting answers immediately, and they're finding value in the conversation and sharing their own experiences through what's been a very stressful time for them. Next slide, please. So now News Digital is much more active in generating stories for the organisation. That's been a real shift. We've found that this has really turned into a bit of a story machine. Reader questions and comments have unearthed stories we may never have found. So this example on the right there is an Australian man whose family have been stranded in Russia for months. He's tried to get them home many times. They've been booked on 13 flights and they've been cancelled each time. It's very likely we would never have come across that man unless he came to us through this project. So we've unearthed many stories and been able to tell many stories we wouldn't otherwise have received. Next slide, please. And we hope that this will drive further change. So this for us feels like just the beginning. We're hoping to take this into the audio space. We want to use this process to automate new interactive conversational formats of news on smart speakers, which is an area we're already active in. In the UK, Reuters took the default spot on Alexa for answering coronavirus questions because they built up a knowledge base of questions and answers. We produced a 60-second coronavirus briefing, and we combined that with our coronavirus podcast, which was our most successful podcast this year, to produce a coronavirus feed on Alexa and Google. And on Alexa, the phrase, "Alexa, get me the ABC coronavirus update," was suggested to all users that made general coronavirus inquiries. So we're using the questions that came from the audience to inform our processes on smart speakers so that we can already have answers in place for when people go and ask those smart speakers for that information. So this is like a future area that is we see as potential growth. Okay. Next slide, please, just to finish up. So the innovation spark for us this year was around listening to what people need. Yeah. While search is a way of finding out what the masses want to know, the most powerful way of meeting people's requirements was by asking them directly. So this year, our audience controlled the news agenda more than any previous year. And as a result, we embarked on a genuine conversation with them. And as people began to believe that we really wanted to know what they thought, they began to open up and share their stories with us like never before. And that's proved massively valuable for us as a national broadcaster to be able to say, we're genuinely interested in what you have to say, and we will follow up on that and give you valuable material in return.
Thank you.
So that's been our experience this year. It's changed a lot for us, and there's plenty of avenue for us to take it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Grant. It's so interesting.
Thank you, Grant.
And it's proof that innovation is not only in terms of product, but also can be in terms of how we think about news. I think that's really interesting. Let's move on to Ms. Chia Ting Ting from Kuala Lumpur. She represents Malaysia Kini, a dear friend of us in here in Indonesia, one of the most successful digital media in Malaysia. The next 15 minutes is yours, Chia.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me to joining these panel discussions. So we have been not really in touch with many friends in the globes, right, in the media organization, but we know we are facing the same challenge, a lot of uncertainty, but I think is a bigger challenge that faced by those traditional media, I would say, because purely Malaysia Kini as a digital media platforms, and then we see opportunity more than the challenges, right? But I do have friends in TV and radio and print, and I know the challenge that they face is even huge, right? And I think there is two level of challenges that we are mentioning here. One definitely is from the news productions, right? From the editorial newsroom, but then another side is talking about the business team, right? So what kind of new businesses and what is the business model and how do we help, the advertisers out there, right? So it's the three key points that the experience that I would like to share today. I think number one is about the growing the media value, right, to the society. So to the readers. So how do we grow, how we value added, how people see media organizations. So what kind of media value added that we can produce from the newsroom to our readers? So when you talk about newsroom, the readers, the business model is about subscriptions. So do you think people willing to pay you in this due to COVID-19 when everybody knows that the consumption of news, they have increased, right? The consumption have increased, people spend more time, especially on digital media platform and social media. So how do editorial team now produce a more valuable news and people wanted to pay for, right? So that is the model of subscriptions that very directly came from the consumption, the value of the newsroom. So then we'll talk about the point number 2 that I wanted to share is also about the business divisions, right? Business of media organizations. So then we actually service advertisers out there. So a lot of advertising budget have switched from traditional media to digital, right? And then a lot of people still spend with Facebook and Google, social media platform, but as a digital media, so what kind of value added and media value and media content or branded content we can produce for our advertisers to also value added to them due to COVID-19, right? So how do we help them to really get businesses during this economic downturn? So that is also, we are talking about how a media organization growing the value to your advertisers. So then last point that I wanted to share today is about how internal restructuring. So how you reboot your staff. So your staff need to be from newsroom all the way to business team. The staff have to be reskilling and upskilling, right? You have to change the way you work. And then you're talking about stay at home, work from home. Then you're talking about communication remotely and all this. How all staff they actually work as a team, right? And also redesigning the role, right? So it's not only the traditional role you're playing multiple role now with additional new skill, right? So let me start with the slide and go through it quickly. Then I had a few examples to share, but I won't really go to one by one. Okay, so as the topics today that I would like to share is about the challenge, but when you look at the challenges, and also we're looking at the opportunity, right? So very specifically, my experience, a lot, 12 years experience is very much in digital media. So I would focus on Malaysia Kini groups. So we have Kini TV, Malaysia Kini, and a business subsidiary company called FG Media, which is where I'm leading the team under FG Media company. So next slide. So the first point that I mentioned is growing the media value, to the society due to COVID-19 pandemic. So next slide. So very quickly, so you have from grants that shared just now. So and it's also in the globally. So is the role of media have been actually it become very very indispensable role that media playing to the society, because a lot of us, many of us is forced or isolated, due to COVID-19. And when we actually stayed at home and then we are hungry or very, looking forward for the update news and information due to COVID-19, so many type of news that people looking around, I think is boosted the media consumption. So it's not just print, it's TV, it's online especially. So TV, a lot of people tune in TV, a lot of people checking on social media. So also a lot of people looking at online news, right? But at the same time, I think there is a lot of fake news. There is also a lot of misinformation out there. So, and this actually cost the public, right? They more preferred and for a trusted and credible media. So media that you have been very much recognizable and creditable media organization like Malaysia Kini in Malaysia. So we are the first top preference site, right? Top news website in Malaysia with the highest traffic and engagement. And the growth doubled, compared last 2 years. And we can see that people actually looking forward for a trusted news sources because a lot of fake news and misinformation out there, right? In social media especially. So then number 2, then especially in digital media, we see it's not only the traffic growth, and then you can see the time span and also engagement rate, it had doubled and tripled, right? And due to also Malaysia, we had a change of government, change of politics in February this year. And after that, we have September, we had an election in our Sabah state elections. So due to the instability of politics in Malaysia, and the consumption of media and the engagement and all these have been spiked, so it's tripled and fourfold compared to last 2 years and few years back. And also you can look at the subscription then and the membership in the subscriptions. It has actually also increased compared to last year, the same periods. So we have launched a corporate subscription package, and also we have put English and Chinese news under Malaysia Kini behind the paywall. And very obviously, the income have from 30%, it jumped up to 90%. So due to instability of politics and also election happened, and also due to pandemic COVID-19. So and we see people actually value Malaysia Kini more. So the desire of consume Malaysia Kini due to the traffic spike, and also the desire that paid and subscribe to Malaysia Kini is also a very good indications that they value Malaysia Kini, right? So it's improving on media value. So if your value improves, I think people will be willing to pay and subscribe for the news that you produce in the society. So I think that is actually an opportunity that we see from subscriptions, right? So next slide. So I quick and go through a few slides, and here is an example that as what Grant actually shared just now, is about engagement with your audience. It's not just you publish the information, it's not just about information, article or video clips and tell people what is happening, but this is very much like data journalism, and we not only telling you where is the cluster, how many cases per day, and then and we actually give you more information. It's more info to share, right? And this is more like an interactive content. So it's more data driven. And also we do launch a little bit of like donation. It's not really purely subscriptions. For this particular interactive content, there are a news lab, another additional editorial desk that we form actually to do this and to give you daily update news. And we actually launch a subscription donation model. So people can donate just one-time donation, either via e-wallets or credit cards on this particular project, right? For these particular teams, right? Next slide. So in increase the subscription, a few things that we have did it by our membership and subscription departments that are lead by my another colleague, Miss Lin. So we have actually a bit of like custom-made newsletter that we insert below all the article, especially a very special opinion piece or columnist article. We actually had a bit of like a letter that we write to every single of readers. If they are non-subscribers, we actually have something for them and ask them to actually consider to subscribe, right? It's just with as low as like 20 ringgit a month or all the way to 200 ringgit a year, right? So we make all subscription is very very designed, very custom-made and very personal message to every readers on our site. So next slide. So this is also an example how we slot in a bit of like a custom-made message to actually tell people to give a more channel and opportunity for people easily, just one click button of subscribe or one click button of donate that make everyone very easy to subscribe and pay to our newsroom, right? Next slide. So this is the subscription page that just one or two buttons that I want to share with, show you an example. And it is one or two click button and make all channel of payment easier. And then people can go to donate one time or they can subscribe, and then it will easily get the easily can get the payment happens, right? Transaction happen. Yeah. Next one. So this is Kini TV video. Even on the social media, when we do live streaming and live reporting, we do have a message that calling people to consider giving us small donations to the Kini TV, the video teams. So this is how we slot in the message of subscription and donation also on our live streaming reporting. Okay, next one. So we do have, when you talk about the increase of the membership, this is actually a program that we rolled out this year, early this year. It's due to COVID-19, and we wanted to grow our youth subscribers and youth members. And then we had a program called Kini Community for Youth. Is where most of our subscribers of Malaysia Kini currently is very mid and older age. So, and we wanted to actually reach out to secondary school student and university student, because Malaysia government, it just passed a law that 16 years old, they automatically can become a voters in next election next year, July onward. So they are eligible voters as young, lower down the voting age to from 21 to 18 years old. This is where we feel that the education, politically education and news it has to be reached out to people younger age, which is 16 years old and onwards. So we had this program is to grow our membership. So we don't sell them subscriptions, but we grow as membership to start the engagement with our readers. So there are a few features that bookmark the story that they like, and then they can follow others readers or others, our editors or journalists. They can also tips the comments, and they can also story bidding. They can bid a story that the certain topics that they want. So then when we every week or every month, our editorial editor will look at the bidding of the top story that bidded by the youth, the members, and then we will produce the special reporting topics. So that is how we actually have the program to engage the upcoming, we call it our future subscribers or the current youth readers. So to make our Malaysia Kini can follow and use it, the platform be beneficial to youth and the future voters and readers also. So next one.
Do you have 3 more minutes? Thing?
Right. So yes. So this is a media value to the advertiser. I will just show you 2 or 3 slides that what we actually come out the new businesses for advertisers. Next slide. Okay, so we know the business side, right? So the challenges that we face is network ads have been dropped. The revenue income dropped, right? About 40% in Q2 and Q3 this year. And then we face a lot of fake news and also ad frauds, right? So a lot of people had a lot of fake news and ad frauds, especially on Google network and also the programmatic network. And then a lot of ground event cancelled. So we had pre-booked a lot of ground event, they cancelled, they moved it to a virtual event or online event. And also a lot of advertisers had the budget cut. So they put the campaign on hold due to COVID-19. They cancelled off the ad deal that had been signed with it last year. And also change of person contact. So a lot of turnover in client side. So, but how do we identify a new opportunity, right? So the first thing is we are looking at who is actually active advertisers that will, due to COVID-19, the industry that very active, they are actively looking for businesses. And then what kind of ad format that we can offer to them. So, and then we know web banner, social media live streaming, a lot of this kind of web banner or Facebook live talk show, YouTube live is happening. So that is where we actually start offering a virtual event organizing for our client advertisers. And then we know interactive content, we can do a lot of visual content, just like COVID-19 trackers that I show you. And we can do a lot of quiz and poll. Actually, we can help clients to collect data, the customer database or the business's database. And then after that, we do also media reporting, a bit of strategic communication for our clients from a media, go and shoot and interview and make announcement what happened due to COVID-19 and what happened to the corporate level. And then we offer not only normal impression banner, we offer programmatic banner for very much audience targeting. So to help them to save their costs. And then how we design the ad package. We design something affordable, customizable, as low as 15,000, as low as 10,000, they can already run an advertisement package with us. And then we definitely will guarantee whatever amount that they spend on Malaysia Kini TV, then we guaranteed we call it result guaranteed. We even generate lead gen for them. We collect database and generate lead gen. So the third package that the elements that we offer is actually give them a bit of like payment term 90 days. So they might not have cash to pay you now, but they want to get business first. So while you're advertising, they get the businesses and then we ask them to pay later. So that is all the advantages and the special, we call it the customizations and the flexibilities that we offer to advertisers. Definitely whatever value added services, as I said, we have to offer more value compared to normal period due to COVID-19 to our advertisers is where we actually help them to start a consultation. We act as like normal media agency or advertising agency out there. We consult our client, what kind of virtual event they can do, what kind of content they do. So we come out a few ideas for them and we even plan the strategy of circulation. The circulation strategy is where we have to totally understand who is their target audience, who is their potential buyer. And their buyer and target audience might be outside Malaysia Kini, outside our Facebook and our followers, and it might not be our followers and readers. But when we come out the content, right, and then we actually run it on our social media pages is where we actually do a bit of boosting. So we have boosting strategy by our ad operation team to basically show the ad that we produce to them, the creative that we produce, the video and the article that write up and video shoot that we produce. And when we circulate, we have to do a bit of boosting. Yep. So when we boost to their targeted customer is where we collect the database. And then from the database, we offer them the customer solution and customer packages. So we call it a bit of lead gen kind of guaranteed result, right? So next slide, let's see what else.
I think
so
we are running out of time, unfortunately. Can you quickly wrap up with your last point?
Yeah, maybe 1.5 minutes
Sure.
more.
I think you can. Sure. You can go straight all the way to, this is all the example to elaborate further, right? So you can go straight all the way to the slide of the learning side. So just next slide, continue next slide. Can you skip this? Yep. Next one. Go to 2.3, the lesson learned. Next. So I would say that, you just go straight further down to the next slide. So I just wanted to summary that the lesson they've learned for all these advertising and the businesses, the opportunity and all this. The first thing I would say that is a lot of heavy workloads and a lot of teamwork, then a lot of communication within internal and also external. So, and then also in event that we organize and talk show that we organize for our sponsors like property and technology client, we actually have to recruit a lot of partners and co-organizer. So because we need to reach out to the targeted audiences for our advertisers, so which is we have to include others media to do it. So then is where we can reach out to targeted community. And also when you come to overt promise of the result of the advertisement, so we actually had learned a lesson, which is where a property lead gen, right? We overpromised a property lead gen where we exhausted a lot of internal resources and burned a lot of inventories. So we do a lot of ABC tests, which headline, which article, what video that work more effectively to collect lead, to collect sales lead for our advertisers. So a lot of burning of a lot of inventories. We do a lot of case study. That is what the lesson been learned by my team, right? And also the ad operation have to require a new skill, the skill of collection of data. They digest the data. They also do a lot of boosting strategy, try to boost to a different targeted audience and see which one will buy our advertiser product better. So a lot of learning and studying there. But also a bit of like, when we actually outsource our programmatic serve the ads, right? We outsource and paid it to our agency. So there is also cost, a lot of payout, this year when we do extra, we create extra efforts for our clients. So then my conclusion is, definitely everyone is talking about rebooting of staff. So staff actually, we require them to basically upskill and reskilling and in communication and motivation a lot. And then when we cannot expand our team, we cannot hire a new, we create staff, and then we cannot promote our staff, is where we freeze our promote and hiring and no increment this year. Everybody also work from home, and then we feel that the productivity and effectiveness is a very huge challenge for us. How do we measure that? And we invest a lot into a new tool and equipment when we wanted to offer more live streaming and Facebook live streaming to our advertisers and sponsors. And then the last message that we have learned as a group, right, is where we feel that the survivability of a media organization is not fall under just editorial. It's also not fall under just the business team. So I think from everybody, is from the operation, is from sales team, operation team, newsroom, and also the supporting team. So everyone is bearing the equal responsibility to basically ensure that the survivability of a media organization. A lot of people feel that it's business team is the one that make companies survive. But I think it has to come from A to Z, everybody, from the front line and to the back end, supporting team. So everyone have to work as a team to make sure that the company is survivable. All right, that is what we have learned so far.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chia. Okay.
Now there's a lot of effort in putting all of that strategy into a 15 minutes presentation. Thank you so much. I did warn you when you sent me that presentation, it will be a bit too long, but thank you so much. Now let's move to Pak Steve Christian from Kapan Lagi Universe, one of the most successful digital media company in Indonesia. What are the lessons learned from, what are the innovations during pandemic, Pak? Over to you, Pak Steve, 15 minutes.
Right, thank you. Please, my slide, I will have only 5 pages. So I can move very fast, Let's go to the first page. Next one. Oh, next one, sorry. Yes. No, the other one with the picture. One more page, please. No. Go back one page. Yeah, this one. Okay, stop. All right, thank you. So it's just a background of our company. Yeah, when I founded this company 15 years ago, we started with celebrity, right? And as you can see, the pandemic changed everything. Yeah, the Eka, one of our journalists, are happy to meet all the Hollywood stars. They have to meet online now. So it's a drastic change of traveling and doing stuff offline and suddenly have to be working at home, right? And although our numbers are big, yeah, if we are looking at the numbers are 110 millions, yeah, compared to what Grant said in Australia is about 11 millions, but don't be too sad, Grant. Our GDP are much lower than you, yeah. So our revenues is probably much lower than you, yeah. But we have the different media verticals, yeah. We started, our flagships is a news Liputan 6, which is an online and also a TV show with the TV news with the SCTV, yeah, as MTech is our group. And also we have Kapan Lagi, which is entertainment, yeah, and Merdeka is also news, yeah, and dream.co.id is a Muslim site, Muslim lifestyle site. And then we have two Bola, yeah. We are not greedy that we have bola.com and bola.net because it was two companies before we merged. Yeah, when I started, I have Kapan Lagi and then I built bola.net, yeah. And then we merged with Liputan 6 with the groups of SCTV Digital. Yeah, we have bola.com, so we have two brand names now in sport. Yeah. And then there is Vimela and Otusia. And all of us are part of MTech as a media company. Yeah, one of the biggest media company in the country. Yeah, where we are proud to be part of MTech. And as you can see, we probably have no income from sport. Yeah, sport is getting hit very badly, and our revenues when I see the lockdowns in Indonesia and all over the world, we do some quick calculations. We will lose about 30 to 40% of revenues. And as you know, yeah, our biggest cost is human resources. What I worry is that what have to be done, yeah, because the highest cost is human resources. How to overcome this problem without losing people. Yeah. But let's go to the second page. Next page, please. Our challenge, yeah, during the pandemic, I can say it's about supply and demand. Yeah. The supply has suddenly get really high, right? Everybody is getting online. Yeah, you got a lot of supply, and at the same time, the advertisers are really worried about what they will spend. Yeah, they do not know what to do. Right, that means they are readjusting their budget. That means we will have a problem with our revenues. And what worry us more is that people are staying at home, people consume more, and there are a lot of new news anchor. Yeah, we can say that we have a news anchor, and suddenly some moms or some stewardess that's being laid off, suddenly they become a news anchor. They do an IG live, they do any YouTube live, anything, right? They being a chef or anything, and they publish it on YouTube, and they have inventories, and their inventories are good. I'm not denying that, yeah, because who watch them are mostly their friends. So it's a good or a good ROI for companies who are looking for a quick ROI, yeah, because a lot of without the scale, probably they only have 100 friends, 200 friends, 1,000 friends, yeah. But the ROI is really good for that company, right? So we have another problem here. We have to deal with the new media. Yeah, I can say that this is. I say to the team that our threat, yeah, is not the other media company. Our threat is from personal content. We can say that we are all professionals, yeah, in terms of how we create content and journalism, yeah. And what we deal with now is we are competing with personal content companies, not just company, but thousands of them. Yeah, if you are looking here in Indonesia, yeah, people are really engaged to Instagram. A lot of people are building companies or personal companies, selling endorsement, and the numbers are remarkable. Yeah, thousands and thousands of them. Yeah, and advertisers are getting tired of the same programs over and over and over, right? So they are trying with a lot of new opportunities, working with moms, working with ex-stewardess, working with ex-news anchor, and all those people, right? That's a new challenge for us. So how we deal with this, yeah? And then please go to the next page. As Grant said before, and also Chia Ting Ting said before, yeah, the number of search is through the roof. Yeah? People searching for everything COVID, yeah, and then people searching for everything. Suddenly we see our search traffic are growing, but as a media company, we have a new problem. That whatever we post on our homepage means nothing. If we are spending like 3 hours, 4 hours a day on the homepage, we actually wasting our time. That's what I said to my editors. Yeah, you spend 2 hours, 3 hours on the homepage, you are wasting your time, because what people are looking for, what people are reading, is what news is being searched. That's our problems. Yeah, the headline has no more power. And then as a media company, how we deal with this? TV is probably different. Yeah, TV companies, you have the schedule to people watch what you offer. Right? Online media company, the search traffic very high. That impact how we have to present news to the users, because users do not search for something that they don't know. Usually when we go to the homepage, people see what they don't know. But now, they are coming with something that they know. So we are become a verification company. Yeah. So that's challenge that we have. And what happened with our team in editorials when things like this happen, right? I can say that our audience become, please go back. Please go back. Yeah. Our audience is become scarce. Why? It's a lot of. Please one more.
Next slide.
One more, please. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. This is right. Yeah. Audiences become scarce. Yeah. We are getting a lot of clickbaits because all the editors are trying to get more views. Yeah. That's making our quality traffic lower and lower. So with the influx of traffic, we also have problems. I think all the media companies have the same problems. Yeah, if all your users are talking about COVID, or all your users are looking for COVID, how can you sell it? How can we sell COVID to all those companies or to all those advertisers? They're not very happy with the COVID traffic. Right. Let's go back. Let's go to the next page. So what do we do, right? As I explained on the first page, yeah, when I have this problem in March, in April, I said to my board that we will lose about 30%, 40% of our revenues. Yeah. So what are we gonna do about this? Okay, my board, a lot of people there, they're saying that we cannot lose money this year, right? What you have to do, you have to do. You have to do something, right? We have about 700 people at the company. And if we are cutting about 30% of them, there are 200 people. Now, how many families affected? Yeah, a lot of families, the young families. Yeah? So we need to change everything. It was lucky. I think it was the right time on April, just after we start doing something for 2020. Yeah, we've been planning what to do with 2020, and we just doing some warming up in the first quarter. Yeah, about executing all the plans. But then, because of COVID, I scrapped everything. I changed our focus to revenues. And I tell everyone, this is a revenue-centric approach, that wherever the money is, we chase it. I know it's a temporary measure. This is not the right way of running business. But at this time, there is no other way. Yeah, I do not want to lose 30% of my people. Yeah, all the team. That's crazy. I cannot think about that. Yeah. So what I see is that where is the revenues? Yeah, we chase that, and we see some revenues on videos. Yeah, because a lot of moms are becoming an influencers. Yeah, they know how to get their audience, but they do not know how to package it and to make it compelling to advertisers. And when we design that for them, and we work with them, right? And then we create a package for our advertisers. Yeah. And then we see that live events like this, yeah, is very popular with the advertisers, because advertisers are usually spending money beside the display ads and the videos and stuff. They also doing an offline event. And suddenly we have to do a live event, yeah, an online event, yeah. Because we scrape all our plans of 2020, yeah. Last year in 2019, yeah, we do only less than 20 live events, yeah. We mostly are creating a VOD instead of live. And this year, because of this demand from the advertisers, we switch everything into live. We have 200 live events. So that's like 10 times of what we did in 2019. Wow. So how can we do that? Yeah, because we scrape all the plans. Yeah, we are a company without a plan. That's a new plan. We're running without a plan. But coming October, we see that our plans works. Yeah, when this is not something for the longer terms, but I believe what we did this year makes all of us stay in the house. There is no one leave the company. There is no pay cut on the salary. Everything we pay what we have to pay, and everybody's happy, right? And what's next then? Yeah, there is a lot of things that we do. Yeah, it's not just live streams and video. We also working with a lot of that. Usually we don't listen to advertisers much. We becoming a good listener now to what they need, right? We cannot be, hey, we have this and this. No, yeah, we're working on what you need. Yeah? What kind of content that you want me to produce? Yeah, what kind of users are you looking for? Yeah? What we do is actually we are converting our readerships to users for brands. That's what we do, right? So we need to find a way to generate leads, not just in terms of purchasing leads, but also leads for activities. And then the last page, please. And for next year, I think the first year will be using the same strategy. Yeah, we are looking. We play by ears. We see what kind of revenues are good for the next quarters. Yeah, but also we are working on our plan of integrating subsidiaries of the company. Currently at KLY we are online media, and then video is kind of a mix of YouTube and Netflix. Yeah, there is a premium subscriptions, and also there is a YouTube kind of video players. Yeah, so we working with Bukalapak as an e-commerce player. So what we do with these subsidiaries, so we are integrating our data. As you probably heard that Google's and all the browsers are eliminating cookies. That means it will be a cookieless world. So what we're gonna do? Yeah. So starting this 2019, we started working on integrating our data, our first-party data, and as what Chia Ting Ting said, yeah, we want to help all the players to generate leads. Yeah, all the clients to generate leads. And I think with the numbers of transactions happening in Bukalapak, we know from when the time users are visiting us until the time watching the video and until the time when they are buying the products. Yeah? that kind of journey we can capture with our initiative.
Thank you, Pak.
And when the time comes, I hope that the companies that joining AMSI can get together, join us together, with our data platforms and working together how to maximize our digital business. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Pak Steve. 15 minutes sharp, Pak. 15 minutes sharp. So thank you for that. And thanks a lot for the insight. It's quite rare to listen to you because you're one of the most successful digital media entrepreneur in Indonesia. A lot of insights there. I think it's very useful for AMSI members who are viewing this webinar this afternoon. Last but not least, of course, we have Ross Settles. You've heard these three media with three different approaches, three different innovations. All of them are very insightful, and I think Pak Steve mentioned very important keywords there at the end about the cookieless world we are facing in 2021. I think it fits right to your presentation. Go ahead, Ross.
Great. So if we can pull up the presentation also, so I can stay on time. AMSI, I wanted to thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It's interesting to hear so many different perspectives and so many different experiences. So if you can advance to the first slide. Next slide, yeah. So I'm an academic, but also I work with, not that far. Go back one slide, please. So I'm an academic, but I also work with a lot of media companies around East and Southeast Asia, and at Hong Kong University, as you mentioned, I'm responsible for the Media Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program. So we run basically as part of the master's program an incubator where students come with ideas for new media they want to create. But what I thought I would do as the academic, since I kind of get to look at lots of different media, both very large media like Steve's representing, public media like Grant, as well as digital media, and also some traditional media with digital outlets. So what I thought I would do is summarize kind of what I see and what I hear. So a lot of this is, think of this as a little bit of hearsay, a little bit of gossip, and a little bit of forecasting. So first slide. Next slide, please. So the COVID-19 pandemic, regardless of where you are, whether you're in Hong Kong or in Brisbane or in Jakarta or in Kuala Lumpur, we're all experiencing a type of discontinuous change that a colleague of mine in California says, historically, we probably haven't seen since the 1940s. So the world that we all lived in December of 2019, and the world that we live in whenever our respective cities and markets come out of the COVID pandemic will be very, very different. And we can go through all of the different things, but what I thought I would do is there are basically four big trends that I've been watching around the region. And the pandemic is really driving those trends. In some cases, it's exacerbating them. It's making them go more quickly in a particular direction. In some cases, it's not really having much of an impact. But I thought I'd walk you through kind of what I hear and what I see. So the first of the trends that the pandemic is really impacting is kind of audience dynamics. Many of us work in digital media, or we work in the transition from traditional media to digital media. And we deal with audiences changing every day, right? Young people are using things that we never thought of, or we never really thought were important until the pandemic. The best example I have is my sister is working on kind of the front lines of pandemic communications in the US. And part of her discovery has been TikTok in the US is quite a phenomenon. And to reach young people, to convince them that wearing masks is a lot of that has been influencers on TikTok. So audience dynamics are changing. The second thing is we've all seen a surge in what I'll call new publishers. That surge is not necessarily a news surge. Right? So we've seen a lot of people enter the publishing world online that are not, let us say, quality publishers. The third is we all work in a world of complex economics. So I think part of the challenge in distilling what's going on is that we all work, we're selling ads, we're selling classifieds, we have live streams, we have events, we have subscriptions, we have memberships, we have all kinds of different ways that we're trying to cover the salaries and the costs of the business. That complexity is going to get even more complex in many cases. I think that's some of what you're hearing with the revenue-centric approach that Steve was talking about and the revenue and engagement-centric approach at Malaysia Kini. The last is, I think, and Steve referenced this, is the last point, and this is not really a point that the pandemic is exacerbating, but as you're thinking about your own media and you're thinking about innovation in that media, there are two things that are happening. One is we enter a cookieless world, as Steve was mentioning earlier, in basically 2022. So all of the data that drives the ad networks is driven by third-party cookie. If you don't have those third-party cookies, the ability for your institution to generate lots of revenue on ad networks will be seriously undermined. So generating your own data as they are at KLY is a good solution. But part of that, the other thing that is happening, and you'll hear this from the Australians a lot recently, there was a new case in Germany this morning, is the platforms are all going through dramatic change. And so we'll need to talk about how that impacts. It's not really a COVID impact, but it is something that's happening right now. So what I thought I'd do is just walk through each of them real quickly. Next slide, please. All right, so audience dynamics, we kind of know this, but and Ting Ting's mentioned it, and Grant mentioned it in their involvement with their audiences, but audiences were embracing mobile social platforms a lot, right? I was interested that all of Grant's examples were almost all mobile shots. The impact, that trend is going to accelerate. So one of the big I want to say beneficiary because it sounds like it was planned, but mobile phone operators and mobile telephony providers, so broadband providers, so in Indonesia, Telkom, here in Hong Kong, PCCW, they've all had really good years. We're selling more handsets. People that have never thought of having a smartphone are buying smartphones, right? People that never thought they wanted a 4G network are buying 4G data. So that trend is going to continue and even accelerate during, if you have no access to the movies or you can't buy a printed newspaper, that information need is there. So you're going to see that accelerate. And after the PC is kind of post-COVID, probably going to continue. So if you're building something, Steve said, if you're spending a lot of time worrying about your homepage, probably not a good time, not a good place to waste your time. Worry about your app, worry about your presence on Facebook or Line or TikTok if you're there. So number one, audiences, trust in media has declined all over the world. We have seen this, and Ting Ting's mentioned it, you see some of that in what Grant is describing, is there's been this flight back to quality. Brands people recognize as telling the truth. There's been this big surge. But usually these surges are crisis-based. So when the crisis subsides, the marginal readers, the people that weren't depending on you, they'll recede. So it's COVID has kind of blown the circulation or the audience bubble up. So number C, lots of new storytelling forms out there. I don't, whether you're trying to reach millennials and Gen Z, whether you're trying to reach older audiences, new storytelling forms, new engagement forms, and they're just because anybody can publish. Anybody with a cell phone can publish. You should be constantly looking. And then the last thing is, and this is, I'm not sure this is applicable to Indonesia, but in a lot of the places that I work, the urban-rural divide is very stark. So I'm doing a lot of work in India and Bangladesh. So connectivity for an urban worker in Dhaka is basically the same as in Hong Kong. But you go 30 kilometers outside of Dhaka and connectivity is zero. That distinction, that gradient is going to shift. Some of it will be government intervention, but I can't send my kids to homeschooling, even if it's just on a mobile phone, if my mobile phone doesn't work. So you're going to see some of that rural connectivity issue is going to change, and it'll change pretty quickly. And that's going to bring on a lot of new people. Actually, in some markets, you're going to see internet penetration jump by 5 or 10% in the next 18 months. Okay, so next slide, please. What does that mean for you guys? So the media on this call, it means mobile social platforms are going to be important to you. They're going to be important to reach. They're going to be important to engagement. That doesn't mean they're the only source of media, but they're going to be important. And you should have a plan, a decided, specific plan for what you're going to do, especially when we get to the last point. When COVID declines, right, that bubble of COVID engaged audience is going to shrink. So if you're at ABC, my question to Grant would be, what are you doing with those 135,000 names? And how are you going to keep them engaged in the process? The same thing for Ting Ting. And you can hear what the KLY guys are creating a huge, basically, data set across all of the different verticals they have. But the question is, you're touching people right now. How are you going to maintain that level of engagement, that level of understanding, whether it's for providing the news or selling advertising? New formats are out there, and I think this is particularly a challenge for big media like Malaysia Kini or ABC or certainly the news organizations under KLY. Is you need to have talent that are playing with these tools. You need to give them a little bit of time, a little bit of freedom to experiment, because otherwise you're going to miss an audience that becomes fascinated with TikTok or Spotify or Instagram TV or whatever it may be. You're going to see a lot in some markets, and again, I'm not sure this is Indonesia, but in some markets, you're going to see huge new sets of audiences come online, whether it's in Africa or in South Asia. We're even seeing it in some places in East Asia. So next slide. The surge in new publishers is kind of my code for disinformation. The cost of being a publisher is zero. It is just the cost of content and management, right? So in the past, you had to buy a printing plant or you had to prepare a license application for broadcast. But the fact that anyone can publish, that's going to continue. The fact that trust in news is low means people are going to try anything. So this is really not an individual media issue, but things like CheckFacta in Indonesia, Taiwan Fact Check Center in Taiwan, FactWire in Hong Kong, media efforts to control fact versus fiction, whether they are institutional, association-based, they're important, and they're going to get more important. The diversity, imagine it as a continuum between fact, reporting the news, and pure fiction, which is reporting what I would like the news to be. That continuum is going to be pretty strong. There'll be extremes on both ends. I wish this weren't the case, but look at the situation in the US. We basically have people reporting on both ends with kind of the nub of a fact in the middle. That's going to continue. And the last thing is news are not very good at distinguishing fact from fiction. Maybe the elites, but the majority of the audiences are not. So anything you can do as an association or as a group of media to raise media literacy is going to be important. And it started before COVID. In some markets, it's become very acute during COVID, and it's likely to continue long after COVID, even just because of vaccines need to be taken, masks need to be worn, public health issues need to be maintained. Okay, so next slide.
Do you have 2 minutes left, Ross?
Next one. Am I going too slow? All right, so let me skip this. Keep going. Next slide. So the next piece is, you guys all know the economics of media is quite extreme, right? You used to have a single source of, one or two sources of revenue, and now you have, in some cases, you're managing 6 or 8 or different revenue lines, right? The thing that we're seeing kind of globally is, can you skip to the next slide? Next slide. Yes. Large organizations like KLY, scale matters, right? So if you're selling advertising, scale matters. Data scale matters. Impression scale matter. So scale matters. Or, next slide. Next slide. Or if you're incredibly focused on a particular audience or a particular vertical, then that matters. The place that you don't want to be, and this has become really acute, and I've seen it in Australia, you're seeing it in Japan, you're certainly seeing it in the US, is the next slide, please. The middle is vulnerable. So if you are a mid-sized local, this is usually local media, if you're a mid-sized, independent, single owner local media, this is my hometown newspaper in the United States, probably 20 employees. They're going out of, they will cease publication at the end of the year. Hundreds of these revenue models are dying because they are in the middle. They are neither focused enough to sell engaged audience, nor are they big enough to use the technology levers and the technology scale that an organization like BuzzFeed or KLY or even ABC probably can bring to bear to their revenue problem. So the very last, skip forward, next one. So two things, and we've already mentioned them, is even Mark Zuckerberg has admitted and said the platforms will be regulated, right? There was a new regulation issued in Germany this morning. The Australians are in the process of a major regulation. The US is seeking a breakup of Facebook, and there's a similar case already pending against Google. It hasn't really, it has accelerated some of the politics around these efforts, but these efforts are ongoing and will likely happen. And then the next slide, please. Let's skip this, please. Keep going.
Next.
Yeah. And Stephen mentioned this as well, is that the other big change that is in the offing is the end of third-party cookies, which drives, it is the data that drives the ad networks. So last slide. Next slide. There you go. So the big challenge for discontinuous change is almost every change that we were experiencing in a very turbulent industry, they're going to continue, and most of them will accelerate. For you as publishers, your time to adapt to things we knew were coming just got lots shorter. So if how you adapt to a changed Facebook, maybe you had 3 years, maybe now you have a year. The cash and talent you're going to need to plan and test and implement all of this, that all just went up. So while you're cash constrained because of revenue situation during COVID, don't suffocate yourself, because you're going to come out of this facing major change in the ad network world, change in the platforms that you're participating in, change in how your audiences are interacting.
All right.
Change in even who your audiences may be. The last thing I'd say, and I say this to a lot of people, is it's very easy to be very focused on just getting through today. If you don't look up, you're going to run into a brick wall when this is over. So doing nothing is not really an answer. All right, so I'll end with that. Sorry, a little overly dramatic as I'm racing to the end. Sorry about that.
Okay. Thank you, Ross.
You're welcome.
Wow, that's a strong message to end.
And very clearly
Very
that
clear.
goals divided to condition,
Yeah.
COVID and
Post-COVID.
Post-COVID.
Very important message for all of the publishers that are watching us today. Thank you for that, Ross. Of course, it's a big issue. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that we would like to zoom in, but time limits our discussion today. I'm going to hand it to Chakri that has summarized some of the questions we have.
Yeah, okay.
Over to you.
Thank you for the 4 panelists we have this evening who participated and gave their extraordinary presentation, very insightful. And then next I will read some questions. Supposed to be some question, but there's only one question
from YouTube.
From YouTube, yes, from the participant, because not less 400 participants join with us this evening.
Okay.
And I will read the first question. This is question for all speakers from Anwar Ibrahim Dana. The question is, how digital media prevent and ensure that the important data that user input, such as address, phone number, etc., when subscribed the media are safe and not provided to other party? For digital media, which one is more important, speed or accuracy? Because sometimes many digital media deliver news quickly, but there are many mistakes in writing news. Yeah, the first question, and then the other one from Anwar Ibrahim Dana. This question for Mr. Grant Sherlock. The question is it any different between subscription on some news portal and none? Because in digital era, we can know more information when we browsing about it. That's not any limitation. And maybe the panelists could answer it first.
Sure. I guess the first questions about data privacy will be most convenient for Steve and Ting Ting to answer. And the second one, maybe Ross or Grant can respond to the questions about what feature that could really determine or really distinguish a digital media, speed reporting or accuracy.
Okay, I'll do the data first, yeah? And we are talking about data, you don't worry about your data. Because what we gather is not, it is a personal data, but we're not looking at you personally. But we are looking at a group people like you. For instance, if you are a buyers at Bukalapak and we know that you are spending 1 million a month, 1 million rupiahs, not Australian dollars. If you are spending 1 million rupiahs a month, and then we categorize you. All the male that's spending 1 million rupiahs a month are targeted by this kind of advertisers. So it's all anonymous. So you are not in the pictures as a personal, but you are in the pictures as a group. So that's how it works. So your data is actually protected, but some kind of privacy that people do not like to see. Tailored ads whenever they open the internet. They do not want to see anything like that. You can just ask to delete all your data and it's gone. And that's why the cookieless world is becoming something very important, because a lot of people do not want to see that.
Sure. Ting Ting?
That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Sure. Yeah. So based on Malaysia Kini case is we definitely have we collect two level of data, two type of data. I think number one is the contact database, which is they sign up a subscription form, they become a subscribers, and then we ask them the basic information about themselves. And definitely we found out that there is a lot of fake information also. So it's just that people use a fake info to create many accounts on Facebook and the rest. So means is that is not like, for us, that is not data that usable, right? So you cannot monetize the data. So for us, when they choose to pay for us, we are not really monetizing the data. So we are not use the data. It's purely just definitely is data protections. But another type of data that we collect from our readers is more sponsored based. It's like we talk about property investment, where we had sponsored a few property client sponsors. So we produced a talk show. We asked people to register, registered to become an audience, to came in the web banner. So then we collect that information. Are they interested to purchase property in this year? So are they interested to purchase, technology like crowd services that provided by our advertisers? So when they review, they need crowd services. When they review, they are in a digitization transformation. When readers review, they wanted to buy a property, then we ask them for willingness or agreed for us to provide their data or share their data to our advertisers and sponsors.
Got it. Okay.
So when we produce that level of advertisement or sponsored program, then we collect the data based on the need by our readers, and they're willing to in touch with our advertisers and corporate clients. Then that is actually more monetizable data. We monetize them and we earn from our sponsors and this one, but not subscribers and normal readers. Okay. Unless they sign up for a program, they review their data to our advertisers.
Okay,
right?
Got
so,
it. Thank you, Ting Ting. Grant and Ross, I will paraphrase the second question. What will future digital media look like? Because in Indonesia, digital media often associated with speed, not accuracy. How do you see the future? What should be the most, important feature of digital media? Grant and then Ross.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I come from a perspective where there is no compromise. Accuracy always wins out over speed. The expectation for an organization like ours, a public broadcaster, a national broadcaster, is that you don't compromise around accuracy. But so we have that luxury of public funding where the commercial model, doesn't apply to us. But in reality, we all know that that's fine, but it's a model of accuracy with speed, right? And so you have to build a model that definitely contains speed. You can't be competitive in a digital landscape if you're not fast. I mean, if you have an app and you've got a service where you drive traffic to your app through notifications, and you think an audience might have multiple news organizations providing notifications, either you're first to deliver the news, or you need to be delivering it in a way that adds value that's going to drive a visit through your notifications. So that's a small example where speed is really critical, but it never wins out over accuracy, because the damage that you do to your reputation by eroding accuracy or getting something wrong is very hard to recover from. And I think if you look at the future of digital media and all of the doubt and distrust and debate around the weaknesses of the media model now, if you find yourself in an area where accuracy is actually considered a cheap commodity and it's not a strength of yours, I really struggle to believe how you would drive a real connection and engagement with an audience that is actually choosing to invest time with you on a regular basis. And so I mean, it's clear that if you have a model that relies on single visits through social or search, and that's all you're doing, you are just pedaling faster on a model. You need to build a relationship with a new audience member so they come back to you. Wonderful. So you can rely on their visit, and then you keep finding a new one, and that's your growth model. You can't burn through audience through single visits. So quality and accuracy are what drive that ultimately in a more long-term model. So if it feels clear to me that I mean, it was very interesting hearing from Ross about the players that he thinks can exist in this model, the larger scale people who have money to invest, but also, I guess, a brand recognition that they can build on. And accuracy is a huge part of that. And certainly we've seen the organizations that have survived or thrived in the COVID environment are those that have been serious about providing information that people have valued. And the sites that have tended to peddle in the drama of the pandemic are the ones that have struggled. And I think that's a clear sign of where things are likely to go.
Thank you. Thank you, Grant. Last, Ross, please, your response.
Yeah, I will just echo what Grant was saying. I mean, it's a false decision, right? fast versus accurate. Fast basically says you're making short-term ad network-driven decisions. You're basically playing. It's almost like you're playing the roulette wheel in Macau, right? You're betting that you're getting your word is going to be top of the Facebook newsfeed, and so accuracy doesn't matter because you're going to basically generate an ad impression. So it is actually a very short term. Most of those fast breaking news items generate 99% bounce traffic. So you guys all know what bounce traffic is. They basically hit the page and leave. Generally, advertisers don't even like them because even though they generated an ad impression, nobody clicked on anything. They hit the page and they left. So it is a short-term versus a long-term decision. Are you serving information for an audience? Are you playing the advertising slots?
Okay.
They're both good strategies, but they're different. It's a different strategy.
Thank you, Ross. I think we run out of time.
Okay.
I'd like to give the last opportunity to the speakers, to the panelists, to give their closing remarks. I'd like to use Ross' last comment there as a trigger to ask to all of you, because Ross said earlier, this is what will happen in 2021. Do you have anything to add or to comment on that? What will happen in 2021? Starting from Grant, and then Ting Ting, and then Pak Steve, closed by Ross.
I think the thing I would end on is that if 2020 has taught us anything, it is that actually in an environment where media was struggling and a lot of players have left the market and people were struggling to make money and in many ways that hasn't necessarily got better, it has highlighted the value of what media can offer to audiences and how we can have greater connections and enhance people's lives. And I think that it is a reminder to people of the value of quality media. And so in 2021, when we're looking at, a continuingly pretty dire picture in a lot of places around the world, we at least know that there is a role that quality media plays in people's lives if you get it right. And it has been a reminder on that. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And the things Steve was saying about having to maintain a workforce while struggling to maintain revenue, I mean, is a really kind of vivid picture of how difficult it is for media. But there is still a positive there in that it shows what can be done and how strong a real vibrant media industry can be if we get it right.
Thank you. Ting Ting?
All right, so for me, I think it's back to my main points that I mentioned at the beginning, that I quite agree with what Grant is mentioned just now. It's everything about offering what, more valuable, we call it value. So what value and what is the benefit you bring on the table for both audiences group, for both targeted groups, and media organization? I think number one is about the reader side. So what you bring on the table, how you value added to the readers, who is those also your subscribers. And then after that, what is the additional value and additional services, including consultations that you bring it to the advertisers so that they will work with you. And end of the day, how you really drive them a sales business. It's not just giving them a branding, an impression to our advertiser, but really close and sales for them. So they want something guaranteed, right? And then when you talk about the values, that we offer to the readers, it's about the accuracy of your news and the quality of your news, and also the engagement elements, right? It's not just a publication, an article and video, but how they also can input, how the participation and the involvement and engagement from the readers. So the format of the content, you have to continuously innovate and change it so that you can offer more to the readers. I think that is what we're talking about, a media value and added value to in next years that we can looking at, post COVID-19. Yeah.
Thank you. Engagement is key.
Thank you.
Pak Steve, over to you, Pak.
All right. Okay. So I would say that next year for the first half probably is still an uncertain time. Yeah, although there is vaccine and stuff, we don't know what happened next. Yeah. But what I would say, as you are a lot of journalists here, yeah, don't be afraid of uncertainty. It is always uncertainty after all. Yeah, there is nothing certain. Yeah, just because it is too obvious now, doesn't mean there is no opportunity. Yeah, there is always an opportunity. Yeah, what you write, what you say to the people, to your readers. Yeah, stress it out. There is an opportunity, and when we spark the opportunity, we will harvest the opportunities. Yeah, that's what I've been thinking. Yeah, that's what I have in mind. Thank you.
Very wise words from Pak Steve. Thank you, Pak. Ross, it's your turn.
I guess I would underscore what I heard both from Grant and Ting Ting and from Steve. You've got this opportunity where value and quality media, quality to build engagement. But if you don't think forward enough, seize the opportunity of who did I engage with? How will I engage with them as the pandemic ends? How do I treat that one web page, that one screen from my app as the beginning of a relationship that I'm going to carry forward, either for revenue or for news?
Yeah.
And now's the time to do it. That is, for me, the opportunity in front of you. And the challenge, I think, for small media is the engagement piece may be easy to engineer. It is capturing the back-end data and understanding what to do with it. How do you turn it into a funnel? How do you turn it into an ongoing relationship? How do you turn it into revenue that you use to pay salaries in the newsroom? But for me, I think we touched on two important things: engagement and the data that underlies that engagement. So those would be the opportunities for me next year.
Thank you, Ross. It's 10 minutes past 5 p.m. in Jakarta. I have kept you guys longer than I request. Thank you so much for your time and for your insight. We cannot thank you enough. It's a very great opportunity to share your insight, your knowledge, your experience. On behalf of AMSI and all of our sponsors and participants, I thank you.
Yeah, thank you again for the four speakers.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you. Bye.
Oke, baik. Ya, Mas Wahyu, ini presentasi yang sangat menarik begitu, very insightful juga, dan partisipan ini juga tidak kurang dari 400 untuk sesi kita hari ini. Ini sangat menarik yang sudah disampaikan oleh keempat panelis kita. Dan sekarang saatnya mungkin bisa memberikan closing remarks juga sekaligus untuk menutup event kita di hari ini. Silakan Mas.
Ya, terima kasih Cakri. Tidak terasa ya, 2 hari sudah berlalu. Indonesia Digital Conference akhirnya rampung. Kami ingin berterima kasih kepada semua yang telah mendukung acara ini, para sponsor, teman-teman panitia, para partisipan yang terus menyemangati kami untuk tetap melaksanakan Indonesia Digital Conference. Jadi meskipun pandemi, tahun lalu kita ingat kita berkumpul di Jakarta Theater untuk Indonesia Digital Conference, hampir 1.000 orang waktu itu hadir in person.
Tapi tahun ini berbeda
sekali.
Tahun ini
berbeda sekali suasananya, tapi saya yakin insight dan diskusi-diskusi yang ditampilkan sejak kemarin tidak kalah berkualitas.
Betul, dan tersampaikan dengan sangat wonderful ya tadi.
Iya, betul.
Tersampaikan dengan baik sekali untuk para partisipan.
Ya, kita berharap acara ini akan terus berlanjut. Karena Indonesia Digital Conference ini memang diniatkan sebagai platform untuk semua pelaku dunia digital, baik dari dunia usaha, kita dengar kemarin dari teman-teman BUMN, dari teman-teman perusahaan teknologi, dari teman-teman di regulator, di pemerintah, dan juga hari ini di sesi ini dari media. Jadi semua aspek dari dinamika dunia digital semua kita kupas, kita hadirkan. dan semoga ini bisa membuat teman-teman berpikir tentang strategi-strategi baru ke depan untuk kemajuan usahanya dan medianya masing-masing.
Betul, karena tadi kalau kita lihat sekelas ABC saja sebagai national broadcaster Australia saja ini juga harus melakukan akselerasi yang cepat begitu. Dan yang disampaikan tadi Ting Ting juga bagaimana caranya media harus terus memajukan atau memberikan mode yang baru pada medianya, tapi dengan budget yang tight,
dengan
gitu budget yang strict.
Dari Pak Steve juga kan bagaimana inspirasinya supaya tidak ada yang dipotong, di layoff.
Betul sekali, menarik. Ya, baik. Dan itu tadi juga closing remarks dari Mas Wahyu, perwakilan dari AMSI. Selanjutnya kita akan seperti biasa akan membagikan door prize untuk hari ini. Kita akan membagikan door prize. Iya, door prize kita hari ini di sesi terakhir, sekaligus juga closing dari Indonesia Digital Conference hari ini. Kita akan membagikan, wah ini ada sepeda MTB Cascade 2 Polygon. Langsung saja kita undi siapa pemenangnya. Start. Ya, stop. Ini dia, Akartini Sari Putri yang mendapatkan 1 buah sepeda mountain bike Cascade 2 Polygon. Ini akan lebih sehat lagi nih. Tapi jangan lupa maskernya tetap digunakan ya. Oke, selanjutnya ini nggak kalah kalian mendapatkan door prize hadiah GoPro Hero 7. Oke, siapakah pemenangnya? Start. Ya, stop. Wah, saya ngiri nih. Krisna Aji Nugraha, selamat mendapatkan 1 buah GoPro Hero 7. Oke. Ya, itu tadi untuk door prize yang kita bagikan untuk hari ini. Dan selanjutnya ini sekaligus juga menjadi penutup kita hari ini dari serangkaian Indonesia Digital Conference yang diadakan oleh Asosiasi Media Cyber Indonesia, dan sekaligus menutup acara kita rangkaian acara hari ini di webinar hari ini. Baik, demikianlah seluruh rangkaian yang telah kami sajikan selama 2 hari dari 15 Desember dan hari ini 16 Desember 2020. Kita akan ketemu lagi lain waktu bersama narasumber yang berbeda dan juga topik-topik yang menarik lainnya. Saya Cakri Miller undur diri. Terima kasih, sampai jumpa.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.